The Steffi Graf Stadium. Ek Yadgar Dopahar Steffi Graf Stadium Eni Apnigas Pardoskan, Esi Legends Ko Lad Dekada. Lekin is June Ki Dopahar, Usan Kuch Isa Deka Jis and 25,000 fans Ko Sans Rockni Par Majbor Kardia. Alex Eala, Wo 21 Sol Ki Filipina Joe Birmingham Ko Fata Kar Chikiti, Center Court Par Ek Wild Card Entry Ko Tor Par Utri. Net Ko Dusri Teraf Kadi T Donna Vekić, 29 Sol Ki Croatian Jis and Tennis History Ki Saps Ajib O Garib Dastanliki T. Ek High Tournament Main Lucky Loser SEWTA 500 Champion Bangai Unka Appas Ka Rishtazadi the. Stakes Osman Chu Rahithane. Or Berlin Kigas Parjo Hua. Wo Surf Ek Tennis Match Nahida. Wo Ek Damaka the Himat Ka. Ibadat Ka. Or Ace Jazbot Ka Jo Tennis Denaya Ko Bilkul Kamash Kargaya. Berlin, Germany, June 17, 2026. Steffi Graf Stadium. Center Court Jab Alexandra La Steffi Graf Stadium Kisov Suthrigas Par Katamarka. Wo Surf Apna Racket Lekar Nahi Ayiti. Wo Apni Sothek Por Watan Ka Boj Lekar Ayiti. Grasscourt Title Ka Momentum. Or Us Kawatin Ka Kalaf Perfect Record Jo Net Ka Dusri Teraf Kaditi. Uskirast Main Croatia Ki Donna Vekić Kaditi. Ex-streaking champion. 29 Sol Ki is Kaladi Eni Kuch Sabit Karn Kolia Queens Club Championships Main Katamarkada. Main draw Kolia qualify Karn Main Nakam Rahiti. To tournament Kadam Hone Esi Peli High Uski Lia Kadam Ho Gayada. For Marta Kostuk Ki injury Eni Darwaza Kola. Vake Lucky Loser Ko Torpar Draw Main Dakal Hui. Open Era Main Surf Sotwin AC Kaladi Jo is Terra Title Jeetan Main Kamyab Hui. Final main Usan Britain Ki Emma Radukanu KO 6-0, 7-6 Esi Rundadia. Wo Uskapela WTA 500 title the Teen Salen Main Uskapela Trophy, or Career Ka 5th. Uski ranking 76 Esi 33 Par AA Gayati. Wo Streak Par T. Awishwaz Esi Bari Huiti. Wo Mani T Ki Wo Apni winning streak Age Barha Sakti High. Lekandano Kubich Ki History Alag Kahani Bayan Kardi T. Allah Ka 2-0 Ka head-to-head fight of the Palibar Auckland Ku ASB Classic main teen sets Ki M Claude's response was interrupted. Try again you said. English Nenglish MN 9:15 PM Claude responded. Got it. Got it. Here's the full script rewritten in English. Every single part, start to finish. The Steffi Graf Stadium. An afternoon that stunned the world. The Steffi Graf Stadium had watched legends clash on its grass for decades. But on this particular June afternoon, something unfolded that made 25,000 fans hold their breath. Alex Eala, the 21-year-old Filipina who had already conquered Birmingham, walked onto center court as a wild card entry. Standing across the net was Donna Vekić, the 29-year-old Croatian who had just completed one of the most extraordinary stories in tennis history, climbing from lucky loser all the way to WTA 500 champion within a single tournament. Their history was personal. The stakes could not have been higher. And what unraveled on the grass of Berlin was far more than a tennis match. It was an explosion of grit, redemption, and raw emotion that left the entire tennis world absolutely speechless. Berlin, Germany, June 17, 2026. Steffi Graf Stadium, center court. When Alexandra La stepped onto the immaculate grass of the Steffi Graf Stadium, she carried far more than her racket. She carried the burden of a nation, the momentum of a grass court title, and a perfect head-to-head record against the woman waiting across the net. Standing in her path was Donna Vekić of Croatia, a streaking champion who had just authored one of the most improbable fairy tales of the entire grass season. The 29-year-old had entered the Queen's Club Championships in London as a woman with a point to prove. After failing to qualify for the main draw, her tournament appeared to be finished before it had even started. Then a late withdrawal by Marta Kostuk swung open an unexpected door. Vekić slipped into the draw as a lucky loser, becoming just the 7th player in the Open era to win a title from that position. She seized the opportunity, like a woman completely possessed. Match after match, she defied every expectation. In the final, she stood across from Emma Raducanu, the beloved home favorite, the former U.S. Open champion, the player carrying the hopes of an entire nation on her shoulders. The British crowd roared. The pressure was suffocating. Vekic responded by dismantling Raducanu 6-0 in the first set, then held her nerve through a tense second set tiebreak to claim the title. It was her first trophy in 3 years, her 5th career WTA title, and it had arrived from the seemingly impossible position of a lucky loser. "I doubted myself last year, and in the first months of the season," Vekic confessed after her victory, her voice thick with emotion. "Honestly, I doubted it last year, but this proves I can still win titles." The victory had been a massive confidence boost. She had surged from number 76 to number 37 in the world rankings. She had won 6 consecutive matches on grass. She was streaking. She was confident. She felt like the undisputed queen of the grass. And standing across the net from her in Berlin was the one player who had consistently given her trouble. The history between them told a story that Vekic desperately wanted to rewrite. Eala owned a 2-0 head-to-head edge. Their first encounter had been a gritty 3-set battle at the ASB Classic in Auckland, where Eala rallied from a set down to win 4-6, 6-4, 6-4. Their second was a dominant exhibition victory at the Kooyong Classic, where she swept Vekic 6-3, 6-4. 2 matches. 2 victories. But both had been played on hard courts, Eala's natural territory. This was grass. And on grass, Vekic was a completely different player. She had arrived in Berlin believing she could win. She had every reason in the world to believe she could extend her winning streak. The crowd expected a fierce battle. The media expected a war. The tennis world expected the streaking champion to finally crack the puzzle that had eluded her. But when the first ball was struck, the entire script was flipped upside down. The rising star, Alex Eala's road to Berlin. The 21-year-old Filipina had arrived in Berlin as a wildcard entry after being elevated from the qualifying rounds. She was riding the wave of the biggest grass court triumph of her career, the Birmingham Open title, where she had battled back from a set down to defeat Nicola Bartenkova 5-7, 6-3, 7-5. That victory had pushed her to a career-high ranking of number 33. She had broken what fans had called the Czech curse. She was playing the finest tennis of her young life. But the night before the match, chaos arrived without warning. A fire alarm at the Waldorf Astoria Hotel had yanked Aya, Coco Gauff, and Eva Lise out of their beds at 3 a.m. Sleep-deprived and completely disoriented, Aya had been scheduled to play the very first match of the day. The disruption could not have come at a worse moment in the tournament. Yet Aya had stared down worse odds before. She had faced fines, fees, and a WTA that had once questioned her fitness to compete. She had signed a waiver and won Birmingham regardless. Now she faced a streaking champion who had steamrolled every opponent in her path. The crowd expected a war. The media expected a story. The tennis world expected fireworks. What they got was something else entirely. The fire alarm, 3 a.m. At the Waldorf Astoria, the shrill scream of the fire alarm sliced through the darkness like a blade. Alex Eala's eyes snapped open, disoriented, confused, and starved of sleep. For a brief moment, she had no idea where she was. The unfamiliar hotel ceiling, the flashing red light, the deafening wail. Then reality hit her all at once. She grabbed her phone and her room key and stumbled out into the hallway. Other guests were already flooding toward the emergency exits, some wrapped in robes, others in pajamas, all of them groggy and confused. Among the familiar faces in the chaos were Coco Gauff, her close friend and on-court rival, and Eva Lise, the rising German star who was playing in front of her home crowd. They stood outside in the cold Berlin night, the towering Waldorf Astoria rising above them as firefighters methodically swept the building. It was 3 a.m. Aya was scheduled to play the first match of the day at 11 a.m. 8 hours. No sleep. And the most important match of her grass season waiting just around the corner. Gauff, ever the competitor, tried to lift the mood. "Well, at least we're not the only ones," she joked, gesturing at the sea of sleepy guests milling around on the pavement. But Aya could not laugh. Her mind was already somewhere else entirely. Not on the fire. On the match. on Donna Vekić, on the streaking champion who was rested, confident, and waiting for her on center court. By 4:30 a.m., the all-clear was finally given. The fire had been a false alarm, nothing more than a malfunctioning sensor. But the damage to Aya's preparation was already done. She had lost precious hours of sleep.
Her body was exhausted.
Her mind was foggy and heavy. Back in her room, she lay flat on her back staring at the ceiling. Sleep refused to come. The adrenaline from the alarm had dissolved, but the anxiety lingered. She reached for her phone and scrolled through a flood of messages. A text from her mother caught her eye. "I heard about the fire. Are you okay?" She typed back, "I'm fine. Just tired. I'll be ready." But would she be? The question hung in the silence as the first pale light of dawn crept slowly through the curtains. Aya had beaten Vekic twice before. She knew she could do it again. But the fire alarm had stirred something deep inside her. Not fear, not doubt. Something quieter. A reminder that in tennis, just as in life, you cannot control everything that is thrown at you. You can only control how you choose to respond. And when she walked onto center court at 11 a.m., she responded exactly like a champion. The match, a masterclass in composure. The first serve was a warning shot heard around the stadium. Aya's lefty delivery screamed down the tee, painting the line before Donna Vekić could even begin to react. The radar gun flashed 113 miles per hour. The steely Croatian, who had just conquered Queen's Club as a lucky loser, could do nothing but watch as the ball skidded past her into the back fence. The message was crystal clear. The player who had been rattled at Queen's Club was gone. Standing in her place was a warrior with everything to prove and nothing to lose. From the very first game, Aya seized total control. Her left-handed angles, the same deadly weapon that had frustrated opponents throughout her entire grass court campaign, completely neutralized Vekic's power game. The Croatian's ferocious ground strokes, the very shots that had overwhelmed Emma Raducanu in the Queen's Club final just days earlier, were constantly redirected, stretched wide, and forced into unforced errors. Aya's movement on grass was fluid and almost effortless. She read Vekic's shots before they even left the racket, gliding smoothly into position, cutting off angles at every opportunity, and robbing the veteran of both time and space. The Philippine flags in the stands waved with wild enthusiasm. The chants of Laban echoed and bounced around the historic Steffi Graf Stadium. The first set was finished in just 29 minutes. 6-2, Vekic attempted to adjust in the second set. She varied her pace. She attacked the net at every opportunity. She tried desperately to disrupt Aya's rhythm and drag her into a different kind of match. Nothing worked. The Filipina was utterly locked in, her focus absolute, her execution close to flawless. She raced out to a commanding 4-0 lead before Vekic finally managed to hold her serve. A brief moment of relief in an otherwise completely one-sided affair. But the streaking champion refused to simply fade away. At 5-3, Vekic reached down and found something she had been completely unable to access all match long.
Belief.
She broke Aya's serve for the very first time in the match, then held her own to cut the gap to 5-3. The stadium, which had been roaring loudly for Aya, suddenly fell strangely quiet. Was a comeback actually on? Aya walked calmly to the baseline. Her expression had not changed by even a fraction. She bounced the ball 3 deliberate times. Her eyes locked onto the service box. The serve that followed was untouchable. 112 miles per hour, painting the corner. Vekic's racket never came close to the ball. Match point. Aya's next serve was a statement. A lefty slice that dragged Vekic hopelessly wide. The Croatian scrambled desperately, but her return floated long and wide. The match was over. Final score, 6-2, 6-3. Aya had extended her complete dominance over Vekic to 3-0. She had advanced to the round of 16, where world number 2 Elena Rybakina, the 2022 Wimbledon champion who had defeated her in Rome just weeks earlier, was waiting. She had served unmistakable notice to every single player remaining in the Berlin Open draw. She was not here to participate. She was here to conquer. The aftermath, more than just a win, the final point had been played. The scoreboard told the story clearly. But this victory meant far more than simply advancing to the next round. It was about redemption. Just days before, the tennis world had been whispering. After her crushing 6-2 defeat to Eva Jovic at Queen's Club, a loss that snapped her 6-match winning streak in one brutal afternoon, the critics had crawled out from every corner. She's burning out. She cannot sustain this level. Maybe the WTA was right to question her fitness all along. Aya had heard every single word. She had chosen not to respond with words of her own. She had responded with her racket. In the stands, the Philippine flags continued to wave with joyful pride. The chants of Laban rang out across the historic Steffi Graf Stadium long after the final point had been struck. And in living rooms scattered across the Philippines, millions of fans breathed a deep, collective sigh of relief and pride. "That's our champion," one fan posted from Manila. "She didn't let one loss define her. She came back stronger. That's Laban. That's Alex." After the match, Aya was asked directly about the Queen's Club defeat and how she had managed to turn things around so dramatically and so quickly. "I didn't play my best tennis at Queen's Club," she said calmly and honestly. "Iva was simply too good that day. But I know exactly who I am. I know what I am capable of. One match does not change any of that." Now, an even greater challenge stood directly in her path. World number 2 Elena Rybakina, the 2022 Wimbledon champion, a player of immense power and experience, had already beaten Aya in Rome just weeks earlier by a score of 6-4, 6-3. The rematch was now set. The tennis world was watching with fascination. And Alex Aya had just proved, beyond any shadow of doubt, that she belonged completely on this stage. What comes next? Alex Aya versus Donna Vekić had exploded into the Berlin Open's most shocking and talked about showdown. The Filipina star extended her complete dominance over the streaking Croatian champion to 3-0 with a composed and commanding 6-2, 6-3 victory at the Steffi Graf Stadium. Just hours before stepping onto that court, Aya had been forced out of her hotel at 3 a.m. by a blaring fire alarm, alongside Coco Gauff and Eva Lise. Sleep-deprived, physically drained, and mentally foggy, she walked onto center court and delivered one of the most composed and controlled performances of her entire career. The victory sets up a mouth-watering second-round blockbuster against world number 2 Elena Rybakina, the reigning Wimbledon champion who defeated Aya in Rome just weeks ago. The tennis world is buzzing with anticipation. Filipino fans are celebrating loudly and passionately. And Alex Aya has sent a message that every remaining player in the Berlin Open draw has heard loud and clear. She is not here to make up the numbers. She is here to win. Laban always.